Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Today we are talking about leadership, specifically how to become a more trustworthy, conscious, masculine leader during times of turmoil and uncertainty. Now, there's one mistake that I see a lot of male leaders making, and I want to highlight that in a few moments, but I think I want to start with a story that will help to really contextualize this problem or this area of development that I see most men needing in their leadership capacity. So earlier this morning, I was talking to one of the men who is in the Great Man Mastermind. This is a man that I've known for a number of years. We used to work together. I've served in a coaching capacity with him over the past year. He's one of the most integrous men that I know, wildly successful in business, but his number one thing in his life is his family and his faith. And he's really stepped up in a big way for his church and his community right now during this time of turmoil. And he and I were starting to talk about how we are both aware of the fact that we are in a position of extreme privilege right now. Both of us are financially secure. Our health is intact. Our families are safe and secure. Like, we have our needs met right now. And we started to get into this dialogue about, okay, well, we are leading communities. We are talking to audiences that have a full breadth of experiences right now, right? Like, we have people who are suffering. We have people who are dying. We have people whose loved ones are dying. And to have this responsibility of painting a positive picture for the future and providing stability and hope while also being rooted in realism and making sure that people are protected and safe and that we're not exposing ourselves to harm, while also naming and shining a light on those who have it really rough right now. And that calls for a wide expanse of a wide breadth of conscious awareness to hold all of that and to speak to all of that in a very dynamic environment. Because one of the things that I'm starting to see emerge from very well-intentioned leaders is, as they're trying to paint a positive picture of what's happening right now, what I see them doing is they talk about how this coronavirus, this virus, this thing that we're experiencing is a gift to humanity, and that we are wiping away all of this sludge that we have accumulated over the course of time. And this is like a real silver lining. Like, we should treat it as a gift. And on many levels, I see it in that very same way. You've heard me talk about how this is the first time in human history that we have all experienced an outside threat to our humanity. And in that sense, like 8 billion people are coming online at the same time, facing the same fear. It's almost like an alien invasion. Like, we're not warring with each other right now. Like, we're actually at war with a common enemy. And there's a strange sense of togetherness that comes from that. Like, we are awakening as a humankind. And I have no doubt that this is going to be like a new level that we're stepping into as a result of it. But when you have a leader who is standing in a pulpit of privilege, only espousing the benefits that this thing is bringing without recognition to the person who's experiencing an extreme form of devastation, destruction, and loss right now, it's irresponsible as a leader. It shows an utter lack of depth and breadth of awareness, of consciousness as a leader. That exacerbates someone's suffering. Imagine being the person who's just lost a loved one and then reading that message. Maybe you are that person, and maybe you have heard that message. Maybe you understand exactly what it is that I'm talking about right now. That's why over these last few days, as I've been talking about gratitude as a practice during this time, I've made it a specific point to mention and to give permission for the fact that you may not be feeling grateful right now. Right? Every day people are dying. People are losing loved ones. Businesses are evaporating overnight, never to be seen from again. People's dreams are dying being lost in the process. Bank accounts are being drained for people who don't have safety nets to fall back on. You may not be feeling particularly grateful right now. And if I don't name that, if I don't see you and I don't include you in the conversation, then I'm an asshole. I am. Then I'm the person who's exacerbating your suffering at a time that you need to be seen the most. And so what I see as one of the most underdeveloped areas in a man's leadership capacity is his ability to refine the depth and breadth of his awareness of who he's speaking to and who he's responsible for and who he's leading. The common one, the big pitfall I see all the time in the financial services conferences that I go to, which are primarily male dominated, but a guy will get on stage and he will machine gun fire sports analogies for like the entire 60 minutes, and completely not caring the fact that there are plenty of people in the room who are not oriented towards sports. Now, I'm a big sports guy. I make sports analogies all the time. And I don't believe that we need to stop making sports analogies. That's not the point. It's actually being able to do two things, I think, in that situation. Number one, it's recognizing that not everyone is going to actually get or embrace this analogy. And also, the second thing is working a little harder to provide other analogies or examples that may require some extra work on your part, but actually may bring in the rest of the room into the conversation. See, as leaders, as men, when we are not seeing the people, we're not acknowledging the people that we are responsible for leading or speaking to or inspiring, then we become less credible. We become less trustworthy. They distrust us. They have no reason to trust us because we haven't bothered to see them. And I've been on the receiving end of this a number of times where I've had to learn my lesson a few times. When I first started running these Discerning Dick events here in New York City, open conversations like Sexual Wisdom for the Modern Man, the first event, I was very conscious in how I set that container because it was an open forum for anyone to come. Like they just had to sign up online. And I didn't know exactly who was in the room. And I was very well aware that I wasn't aware of every single person in the room. So the way that I set up that container was to say, this is a conversation specifically geared towards men because men don't have enough forums to talk about sexuality openly in a safe environment. As you see, everyone here is welcome. We have men, women, however you identify are welcome here. I just want you to know that we are having a conversation that's specifically engineered towards men for this reason. And I share from my own experience as a heterosexual man, so this conversation is going to be geared towards heterosexual men because that's the experience that I can lean upon, and I don't espouse to be an expert in any of these arenas, so I'm relying on my experience. So that worked really well. But when I ran the second event, I got sloppy. I didn't do that same level of containment. I didn't name the fact that this is like who we're talking to. I didn't name the fact that I'm sharing from a heterosexual perspective. And there was a gentleman in the audience, his name is Brendan, who came up to me afterwards. He's like, hey man, I just need to give you some feedback. The first time you set this beautiful container, so I brought my friend who's a gay man who came to this event. And when you didn't do that this time, the entire conversation was heterosexual or heterosexually oriented, and most of the first few people who jumped in were heterosexual in their conversation. And he said to me halfway through, I don't belong here. He felt excluded. And that felt like a knife in my stomach to make someone feel unsafe in an environment that I created. What we talk about here all the time is a great man creates environments where he and those he care about can thrive. Everyone in my kingdom needs to feel like they are seen, like they can thrive, like they're welcome. And for this man, because I wasn't aware, I let my conscious awareness lapse, he felt excluded. And so what I am challenging you to do in this time, as you are leading through times of turmoil and change, you are charged with painting a picture, that an inspiring vision that other people can get behind while staying rooted in reality, and also recognizing that there are plenty of people who are experiencing loss right now. and it may not be visible to you. There are plenty of people who are suffering from anxiety and depression right now, where their fears are exacerbated, where their bank accounts, maybe like the investments that they made, or they tried to start a side business and then that's been devastated. Maybe they're coming to work for you and you don't know about any of these things. To speak about how this could be a gift without acknowledging the hardships could cause you to alienate the very people who need you the most right now. So what I'd like to do is just to kind of summarize this is to say, as you are working on refining your trustworthiness as a healthy masculine leader, a conscious masculine leader, is to pull back the lens and to recognize who you are speaking to and to be able to name that, to make sure that other people are feeling included. To work a little harder than to go to like what's easy for you, like in the example of the sports analogy guy who gets up on stage, because that's easy to make that reference. But what about the other people in the room who may not get that, who may not resonate with that? How are you going to draw them in? During these times, people are looking for leaders more so than ever before, and they're looking for people they can trust. So yes, paint that inspiring picture. Yes, be rooted in reality. And yes, include the people who need it the most right now, because that's what a great man does.